So the Sixers, they became one of the more interesting teams this offseason after James Harden opted into his $35.6 million player option for the 2023-24 season in the hopes that he would be traded to a team that couldn't sign him otherwise. But then today, our Ramona Shelburne, she reported the Sixers, they do not necessarily plan on agreeing to a rookie extension this offseason with guard Tyrese Maxey, who became the second youngest Sixer to score 20 a game. That was last season. And then to maximize cap space for next offseason, when only Joel Embiid and PJ Tucker are currently under contract. So Philly could find Embiid's next co-star in free agency here. So with all of that as the backdrop.
You said all of it.
There's a whole lot going on right now in Philadelphia. So let's bring in our front office insider, Bobby Marks. Bobby, with all of that as the backdrop, what can Philadelphia do?
Well, they're limited, and certainly the Harden situation is certainly going to kind of leave them a little bit in flux right now, of course. When you look at as far as, let's go find them right now, as far as what they're able to do, they're in a little bit of a holding pattern. They're over the salary cap. They're approaching the luxury tax. They're right below it. They can go out and sign players to the veteran minimum exception. They can go out and bring players like Paul Reed, who is a restricted free agent. But I think until they get some clarity on James Harden, it's hard to fill out the rest of the roster just in case you have to take more salary back in a deal.
Bobby, Richard Jefferson here. I just have one quick question because we were talking.
He know who you
I think he can't see it.
So what? No, but he can hit. No one can sound
ahead,
like.
Okay, Bobby.
No one can sound like.
No. Same with you, bro. My question for you, Bobby, was this. James Harden, since he opted in, why can he not get an extension? That was a question, and I know there's a lot of new rules and stuff. Why is it that he can't sign an extension after opting into his contract?
Yeah, so this is a rule that was in the prior CBA. If a player signs a 2-year contract like Harden did last year, he is not extension eligible. The rules of an extension eligible player is for 3 or more years, and then you have to reach the second-year anniversary here. Harden, 2 years, has not reached that second anniversary. He's eliminated from signing an extension.
Hey, Bobby, Big Perk here. I'm serious. I got a question though. I want to know, like, what are the chances of the 76ers moving Tobias Harris contract right now? I know we're talking about James and the extension of, Tyrese Maxey. They're not going to do that this season, but Tobias Harris still, to me, is a moving point.
Well, we're interested to see what Houston has to do, right, Perk? They've got to spend $52 million of this salary cap here, and we're still waiting on decisions of, certainly Fred VanVleet and Brook Lopez, Dylan Brooks here. What happens if they strike out in free agents here? Would they take on the $39 million of Tobias Harris to kind of go in there into that slot here? So they're really the only team that can absorb him for nothing. I think if you're Philadelphia, if you're looking to move him, can you try to get a first-round pick for him? But he's an extension-eligible player because of his contract, but that's probably the next domino to fall after they figure out what happens with James Harden.
Bobby, one domino that we're not waiting on is Kyrie Irving. He's agreed to a 3-year deal to stay with the Dallas Mavericks, and our Tim McMahon reported, okay, this is a little bit less than he could have taken, right? So is that mid-level exception here for Dallas. What can they do with it?
Well, you're right. We talked earlier in the week, right? $38 million was that kind of target number for them for able to have that mid-level exception. We had Kyrie at the full max, and certainly he's not getting a full max salary here. So when you lower him down to about 38 and we slide him in, they're certainly over the cap. They're under the luxury tax. I think it's got to be looking for a wing defender. Now, the market is a little bit thin when that comes to that. Certainly Cam Johnson is out off the board. I don't think they can afford Dylan Brooks for that $12.4 million exception. I think a guy to keep an eye on is Matisse Thybulle in Portland. However, he's a restricted free agent. 4 years, $53 million is the most on a mid-level exception. They just signed Jeremy Grant. Would Portland match that? Potentially could move them closer to luxury tax.
Very interesting. Bobby, thank you. Ramona, you and Tim McMahon were reporting on this deal that lands Kyrie Irving back in Dallas for those 3 years. How did this decision come together?
Well, what's interesting here is it's a 3-year deal, but it's a player option on that 3rd year. And I think that's reflective of a lot of players around the league thinking and recognizing how much money could be coming into the NBA in a couple of years with the new broadcast deal or when that gets done. We talked about this with James Harden earlier. How much money that they turned down in Brooklyn when those extensions were offered there. Kyrie actually made back a lot of it. He actually made back a lot. He and his agent, Kyrie Irving, did a pretty good job here, making back a lot of that money that he had left on the table in Brooklyn and preserving some future flexibility with that player option on the third year.
And Luka Doncic involved in this process?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, when they traded for Kyrie Irving, they gave up a lot. And that was a huge gamble for Dallas because if he would have left them, there is no way to replace him. Then you're looking at 2 off seasons in a row of losing a key player there. And so for Kyrie, there just wasn't a lot of market around. There was other teams that were interested, but nothing close to this kind of value. It would have had to be a sign and trade. And he also took a little less than his max to preserve their cap space so that they can use that to go add a wing defender, as Tim McMahon mentioned when you had him on earlier. That shows you something there. Like, he could have pushed for a little bit more there, but if they can take that money and add a wing defender, which, I don't know, Dorian Finney-Smith would have been good, right?
Well, you wouldn't have got Kyrie. You wouldn't have got Kyrie. No, but Matisse Thybulle, I know his name is popping up for a lot of people that aren't familiar with him. He's a young player that needs to improve his three-point shot. One of the best defenders that you could ever see. He broke the steals. He broke Gary Payton's steal record. So just think about it, the glove. That's what he was doing in college. He gets drafted. It hasn't really fit, mainly because his shot hasn't improved. But his defense, he has the ability to be an all-defensive player. If he improves his shot, he can be on the court long enough to be a first-team all-defensive guy. So that guy, when you're looking for a 3-and-D, yeah, there's some gaps in his game. But defensively, he's as good as it comes.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.